Entering the classroom, Chabashira-sensei immediately announces the next special exam. Nobody will be expelled this time, but they are competing against Class A on a written exam. The winner will take 50 class points from the loser, and Chabashira declares they in fact have a very good chance of winning. The entire class will take a single test, working one at a time, where each member must answer 2 to 5 questions. There's a 10-minute time limit per person, and it's forbidden to leave behind any written or verbal clues. The unique part of the special exam is that the lower academic ability students actually receive more points for a correct answer. So theoretically, Class B actually has a higher potential score than Class A, though they only have 3 weeks to prepare. Harada states their participation order will be crucial, and Horikita declares that she'll come up with the strategy, so everyone else just needs to focus on their studies. Now of course, Ayanokoji doesn't need to study, so let me explain how he and I both stay safe online while downloading the most recent light novels. It's all thanks to today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Being an avid light novel reader, I come across more than my fair share of questionable websites. But that's where Surfshark comes in clutch, by adding an extra layer of protection to your device, as it blocks more than 1 million different virtual threats. Oh, you don't read light novels? But I know you watch anime. And Surfshark also has a built-in ad blocker, which will prevent all those pesky pop-ups. What's that? You prefer to watch on Netflix? Well, by using Surfshark VPN, you can virtually change your location at any time, giving your Netflix account even more anime to choose from. You can get an exclusive Surfshark deal right now. Just use my promo code for an extra 3 months free after clicking the link below. Immediately after class, Ayanokoji enters the student council office, just as Mr. Vice President glances at his phone. Kiriyama declares he needs to prepare for a future exam, though Nagamo wonders why, since he controls all the results. Apparently, there's a group of third years who wish to dethrone Nagamo, but Mr. President isn't concerned. Turning to Ayanokoji, they state the second year's class points are still unusually close, though they think one class will surely plummet due to the final exam. It's then revealed that it's time for Nagamo to step down from the student council, and he wishes to turn it into a contest with Ayanokoji. There will be an election between Ichinose and Horikita, so Nagamo and Ayanokoji will each bet on a candidate. Knowing there's no escape, Ayanokoji agrees, as long as the voting is completely anonymous. Nagamo exclaims that won't make a difference, but Ayanokoji isn't so sure. The wager will be 20 million private points, but since Ayanokoji doesn't have that much, he will instead wager expulsion. Kiriyama complains they could use that many points to promote another third year to Class A, but Mr. President says he'll use his points how he pleases. At the very least, they agree not to tell the girls of their bet, just before Horikita and Ichinose enters the room. Once again, Nagamo reveals they'll hold an election to become the next president, but Horikita believes Ichinose deserves the position. She has been part of the student council longer, but the issue is that she's nowhere near Class A. He then openly tells Ayanokoji to choose his candidate, essentially revealing their competition. Unexpectedly, Kiriyun bursts inside, stating that she made an appointment through Kiriyama. Our vice president apologizes for his forgetfulness, as Kiriyun goes on to explain that Yamanaka tried to frame her as a shoplifter, and that upon interrogation she stated that Nagamo ordered her to do it. Mr. President neither confirms nor denies this, instead pointing out Kiriyun's lack of hard evidence. Though upon turning back to the underclassmen, Ichinose declares herself to be unworthy of being student council president, due to her current class ranking and past criminal behavior. Nagamo tries saying that incident doesn't matter anymore, followed by Ichinose dropping out of the student council. With a polite bow, she leaves behind a very confused Horikita, who just became the only candidate for the next president. Though before the transition, Nagamo orders her to find 2 replacements, one for Ichinose and one for Yagami. She accepts this job, and Ayanokoji is momentarily prevented from following her, as Nagamo tells him to assist with Horikita's search. Outside the room, Horikita states that Ayanokoji would make a great student council member, and that she's definitely going to choose somebody from their class. She then asks for his opinion on the special exam, though he refuses to strategize, but is willing to follow her orders and answer questions correctly. Now on his way home, Ayanokoji gives his girlfriend a call, who is eagerly awaiting his return. He then takes a moment to think about how their relationship might be entering its final phase. The following day after class, Ayanokoji meets with Horikita, who's now aware that Nagamo ordered him to assist her. She proclaims to have new members already picked out, just as Kushida arrives. It's revealed that Horikita will be the next student council president, and that there's a few openings that need filled. Kushida states she's not qualified, but Horikita points out that she's a top-tier student. All three of them are aware that Kushida just doesn't want to work for Horikita, though they point out it actually benefits her. Amasawa randomly states that joining the student council would provide a layer of protection, and everyone is confused as to why she's here. Of course, the student council offer is rejected once again, though after a bit of annoyance, Kushida asks if they can change location. After relocating, she orders Amasawa to buzz off, but obviously that's not happening. Our duo asks the first year to be quiet, followed by Ayanokoji suggesting to give Kushida more of an incentive. She exclaims to be willing to join the student council if Horikita prostrates herself right here. She immediately kneels to the ground, causing Kushida to panic. To her, this is a small price to pay for benefiting the class, though Horikita believes that Kushida would very much prefer to best her in a fair confrontation. It's verified that she'd be working under Horikita, but that's only if she can't overpower the president's influence. She finally agrees to join the student council, but still demands for Horikita to prostrate herself right now. Our proud class leader then asks our two observers to please step away. As expected, Horikita is less than happy, but it was effective at reaching her goal. As payback, she plans to use Kushida to the max, and tells Ayanokoji to never bring this up again. He's curious if Nagamo will really allow two student council members from the same class, but Horikita doesn't think it's a problem. After reaching the first year building, with Amasawa still following them, Horikita alone steps inside a room. Ayanokoji takes this time to ask what Amasawa wanted with Kushida, which apparently was just to check on how her mental state was holding up. He then asked why Amasawa didn't assist him with expelling Yagami. To find out, she used that as a test to see if Ayanokoji really was worth her adoration. With Horikita's return, they rush down the hallway to catch up to her target, the first year named Ishigami. Now, Ayanokoji has interacted with Ishigami before, but they both act as if they don't know each other. She declares Ishigami to be a top-tier student, and as such, she'd like him to join the student council, though he immediately declines and then walks away. With that not going as expected, they end up running into Nanase. Ayanokoji vouches for her, and she becomes the next student council secretary. After this, they stop by the study group, where Sudo encourages his class by explaining how important he realized studying can be. The next day, Ayanokoji is once again called into the student council office. Nagamo thinks it's bold of Horikita to choose a student from her own class, but she simply states Kushida is more than worthy of the position. Mr. President then gives up his chair to his successor, before telling Ayanokoji he can leave, but also warning him their battle isn't over. While outside, he receives a message wanting to meet up on Saturday, followed by Kiriyun approaching him. They begin discussing the framed shoplifting incident, and you learn Nagamo prevented her from contacting Yamanaka a second time. They mention the possibility of a third party being the culprit, just before Kiriyun asks Ayanokoji to investigate this for her. Of course, he wants nothing to do with this, but Kiriyun reminds him that he actually owes her a favor for her assistance during the island exam. Saturday rolls around, so Ayanokoji heads to the mall to meet up with Kanzaki and Himino, though upon arrival, he's greeted by Watanabe and Amikura as well. Moving inside a karaoke room for privacy, Kanzaki forces the two newcomers to promise not to speak a word of what they hear. He then asks about Ichinose leaving the student council, which Ayanokoji confirms to be true. This will cause Class D to lose even more class points, so Himino and Kanzaki feel like Ichinose must have given up on reaching Class A. Watanabe and Amikura disagree, prompting Kanzaki to state they have too much blind faith. The group wants to know why Ichinose quit, but Ayanokoji tells Kanzaki to figure that out himself. Then turning to Himino, he bluntly asks if she's happy, idly sitting by as the class falls apart. Amikura then mentions that Ichinose has been sad for a while, and that it has to do with her rejected confession. The group is stunned upon hearing this, and 20 minutes later, Hamaguchi arrives, revealing that he sides with Himino and Kanzaki. They're not looking to dethrone Ichinose, but instead want to build her back up to be a great leader. Two Class C students burst into the room, obviously just trying to interrupt this meeting. Though after they're gone, the group forms a plan to have Ayanokoji meet up with Ichinose in order to uncover her intentions. Someone does bring up the issue of Kei, but Ayanokoji agrees anyways. Then upon stepping outside, Watanabe asks Ayanokoji to find out what type of guy Amikura is interested in. With nothing else planned, Ayanokoji spends his day alone at the mall, messaging Kei that he won't be home until nighttime. Then making a phone call, he invites Ichinose out to the mall tomorrow, and she nervously agrees to accompany him. Then it's while on his way home that he finds Himino silently staring at the sky. Apparently, she doesn't know what actions to take that will help the class, causing Ayanokoji to reassure her that you never know for certain. Next, she wonders if it's even possible for them to reach Class A, so he encourages, saying it's doable if they're willing to change. Lastly, Himino wants to know why Ayanokoji is helping them so much, and he declares it to be simple curiosity. They walk back together and find Kei outside waiting on a bench. She's a bit uneasy to find her boyfriend walking with another girl, but she then invites him to the mall tomorrow. He reveals he already has plans to spend the whole day with Ichinose, causing Kei to become jealous and interrogative. It's explained that Konzaki asked him for help, and that Ichinose quit the student council. She wants to know why he goes so far to help a rival class, but he refuses to tell her. Now rightfully upset that her boyfriend is going on a date with another girl, Kei storms off to a convenience store alone. Ayanokoji is well aware that this entire situation could be resolved by chasing after her and apologizing, but he's honestly interested to see how this rift will cause him to feel. The following morning, Ayanokoji arrives to the mall early, where Ichinose is already waiting for him. It's a bit awkward, but a few minutes later the mall opens and she asks what their plans are for today. He actually doesn't have any, so they decide to do whatever it is Ichinose would normally do on her day off. To begin with, they head to the gym, where Ayanokoji plays dumb, allowing her to explain how all the equipment works. Amikura just happens to arrive, and Ichinose becomes embarrassed upon realizing what she's wearing in front of her crush. She then goes to get water, prompting Amikura to inquire as to what Ayanokoji will do about Ichinose's feelings. Successfully dodging the question, he manages to ask what type of guy Amikura is into, and you learn she's been in love with the same guy for the past 5 years. After leaving the gym, Ayanokoji contemplates getting back into shape, followed by them taking a rest. As a consideration for Kei, Ichinose wants to go somewhere secluded, but Ayanokoji takes them to a cafe anyways, blatantly asking if this meetup has to do with her quitting the student council. Ayanokoji agrees, stating he thought she had a good chance of beating Horikita in the election. Ichinose reveals she had already decided to quit the student council even before the class trip, though their intimate conversation on the final day definitely sealed the deal. Next, Ayanokoji verifies that she's still aiming to become Class A, and she reminds him that he promised to support her. With that out of the way, he begins asking about Amikura's taste in guys. Suddenly, Ichinose gets jealous, and they have a bit of back and forth, before Ayanokoji admits that one of her classmates simply has a crush on Amikura. With a sigh of relief, she reveals that Amikura loves someone outside of the school, and states that Ayanokoji must be very close with Watanabe. Now, near the end of their day together, Ichinose brings up Kei, as she wonders which of them confessed first. Ayanokoji declares it was him, causing her to admit that she's very jealous. Next, she offers to explain the situation to Kei, but he says that's not necessary. Ayanokoji then checks his phone, not finding any messages from his girlfriend. A few days later, during lunch, we find Ryun directly confronting Ichinose. Ryun brings up the student council and exclaims that she probably got kicked out due to her past shoplifting behavior. Ichinose manages to keep her composure, followed by him suggesting that she should just forfeit the special exam. In front of everyone, Ichinose reaffirms her intentions to reach Class A, and Ryun takes his leave, deciding he's done enough. Elsewhere, Hashimoto returns to his group, revealing he's worried that Class B may win the special exam. Due to this, he wants to sabotage them, but Sakayanagi states that's unnecessary. You see, Ryun's methods are efficient for his class, since they have a low academic ability, but it's far more beneficial for Class A to just focus on their studies. Hashimoto wants to know for sure if their class will win this exam, and Sakayanagi is very confident, but she has to admit the odds are stacked against them. Kito can tell that Hashimoto is still bothered, prompting Sakayanagi to remind him they'll be facing off against the objectively weaker Ryun's class on this year's final exam. Then after walking away, Hashimoto briefly meets up with Kaneda from Class C, and they exchange some secret information. He finds his target hidden away crying, which is due to one of her close friends being expelled. Asahina isn't sure what happened, but believes it has something to do with her trying to move up to Class A. After changing locations, Asahina spills the details on the contract Nagamo made with the majority of the third years. Basically, everyone agreed to give him 75% of their private points and to follow all of his orders. If Nagamo so chooses, you'll be promoted to Class A before graduation, and even if you're not chosen, there will be a random lottery, with class promotion as its reward. Ayanokoji switches the topic to Yamanaka and explains the situation with Kiryan. Apparently, while chasing Yamanaka, Anzai stepped between them and took the brunt of Kiryan's anger. Then with a quick phone call, Asahina sets up a meeting with Yamanaka. Though roughly 30 minutes later, a boy named Tachibana arrives, acting extremely defensive of Yamanaka. He claims they were only following Nagamo's orders, but Ayanokoji doesn't believe him. Tachibana exclaims they had no choice, followed by Ayanokoji setting his phone to record and asking him to swear he's not lying. Though the upperclassman turns off the phone, declares he's telling the truth, then walks away. Asahina is curious as to what Ayanokoji figured out, but he's not ready to reveal it. He sends part of his findings to Kiryan before heading back to his dorm. Unexpectedly, Ichinose has been standing outside for 1.5 hours waiting for him. She wants to know how he and Kei fell in love, which Ayanokoji explains to have just sort of happened over time. Next, they discuss their day at the mall, followed by Ichinose motioning him to come closer. It's revealed she planned for that day to be the end of her feelings, but she happily admits to still being fully in love with him. Ayanokoji allows her to caress his face and asks what it is she wants. It's proudly declared that she wants to reach Class A, and that she wants Ayanokoji for herself. Though due to Kei, she doesn't plan to try anything more, but she does plan to become a woman who will attract Ayanokoji's eye. They reaffirm their promise to meet up at the end of the school year, and she tells him to hurry and make up with his girlfriend. Did you know patrons get to watch these videos early? The day of the special exam finally arrives, and the class continues to cram until the very last minute. Everything goes according to plan, as Koenji steps up to answer the final 2 questions. With the exam concluded, Chabashira announces the results will be posted tomorrow, then dismisses the class for the day. Kei approaches Ayanokoji, now ready to forgive him, though Horikita cuts in saying he's needed at the student council office. Along the way, Ayanokoji reveals part of his findings in regards to Kiryan. Horikita takes her place as the president, just as Kiryan enters the room. They re-explain the incident in which Nagamo is being accused of ordering Yamanaka to frame Kiryan for shoplifting. Of course, he claims innocence. Kiryan points out he's always wanted to battle her, though Nagamo states he's lost interest in that. Miss President wants Kiriyama's opinion, and he proclaims that Nagamo wouldn't have failed if he really wanted to frame Kiryan. If this is true, then Yamanaka is trying to protect someone, and Kiryan demands an apology from the real culprit. It's then revealed that Ayanokoji was approached by Tachibana, but Nagamo nor Kiryan associate with him. Our secretary points out that someone has to be lying, but Horikita actually disagrees. She confidently declares Kiriyama to be the true mastermind, as he used his position as vice president to order Yamanaka to commit the act. As expected, he denies this, but quickly gives in as Horikita threatens to call Yamanaka as a witness. Kiriyama had promised her a promotion to Class A if she could successfully frame Kiryan. However, he did this with the intention of it failing, which would then cause Kiryan to storm into the student council office to plead her case. This was all an elaborate plan so that shoplifting would be mentioned in front of Ichinose, with the hopes of her dropping out of the election. You see, Kiriyama was well aware that Nagamo would spend massive amounts of points to win his contest against Ayanokoji, but he believes those points should be used to promote additional third years. Nagamo exclaims they're his points to play around with, but he never realized how his actions were causing people to resent Kiriyama. The group then looks to the student council president for her decision. Horikita declares that Kiriyama must apologize to Kiryan and asks him to voluntarily suspend himself from school for 1 week. She then turns to Nagamo, stating he can't revoke Kiriyama's Class A promotion, and from now on, any points acquired through the contracts must be used for the benefit of the third years. Shockingly, everyone accepts this decision, though Nagamo looks beyond bored with this outcome. The following day, after the closing ceremony, Tabashira announces that on the special exam, Class B successfully defeated Class A, even though they answered less questions correctly. Just after this, Ayanokoji receives a message from 2 different individuals, and once again, Kei is left watching as her boyfriend leaves the room. Outside, he compliments Horikita's strategy for this exam, where they had the smartest students answer the minimum 2 questions, then spend the rest of their time scouting the easier questions for their classmates. Then upon switching to the next student, they would hold up fingers to indicate which questions the lower performing student should answer. This was allowed because the rules only prohibited written and verbal communication. Horikita then suggests that Ayanokoji should hurry up and fix his relationship with Kei. A bit later, Sakayanagi congratulates the two of them on their victories, and specifically praises Ichinose for not giving in to Ryun's provocation. She then orders Ichinose to keep her distance from Ayanokoji, as he's definitely controlling her and will ultimately destroy her. Ichinose says this must be a joke, and accuses Sakayanagi of feeling threatened by her relationship with him. She leaves a moment later, followed by Sakayanagi mentioning she's impressed with Ichinose's newfound strength. He wonders if Sakayanagi thought she could stop Ichinose, but is told the only difference is which one of them finishes her off. Sakayanagi then promises to once again visit Ayanokoji's dorm, in the near future. In the mall, Sato is doing her best to console Kei, who's still depressed due to her relationship issues. Eventually, her mood begins to lift, though upon checking her phone, her expression darkens, so Sato takes a peek, finding a photo of Ayanokoji leaving the gym with Ichinose, which was a different day than the meetup which Kei knew about. The girl in question then just so happens to walk by, and asks if Kei is going to begin joining Ayanokoji at the gym. Kei wasn't even aware that her boyfriend had begun working out, and Sato straight up asks if anything is going on between Ichinose and Ayanokoji. Of course, she states they're only friends, and even apologizes for causing Kei to worry. Though Sato and Kei are still unsure, so Ichinose goes on explaining that Ayanokoji is only helping her as a way to keep Ryun's focus away from Class B. This makes sense and restores Kei's motivation and resolve to fix her relationship. Though after they're gone, Ichinose mutters,
"Nothing has happened with me and Ayanokoji. Yet."
On the first day of winter break, Ryun arrives 10 minutes late to find Ichinose waiting for him. They discuss how Ichinose's class won the special exam, as Ryun continues to try and provoke her. Even after a lengthy conversation, Ichinose still refuses to waver in the slightest, forcing Ryun to acknowledge her newfound strength and determination. This meetup then ends with Ryun openly stating that he's glad and lucky to not be facing off against Ichinose on this year's final. A big shout out to my newest patron, Alfie.